Hello and welcome to the Retail Energy Code metering information session. This session will provide a range of information around the metering codes of practice, how a party can become accredited, how a party is able to maintain their accreditation, including any audits involved, suspension and withdrawals of accreditation, and the customer surveys which are required under the smart meter installation schedule. This slide details an overview of the metering codes which are active under the Retail Energy Code and have moved across to the REC as of the 1st of September 2021. There are 4 metering codes: Mocop, which concerns gas, Mocop, which concerns electricity, ASP-COP, and SMI-COP, also known as SMIS, which is around the smart metering installation. MCOP is formerly known as AMI-COP and MAM-COP, and now approved meter installers and meter asset managers fall within MCOP under a broader code of practice. Mocop used to be known as Mocop and is now being rebranded. However, it is important to note that no changes have been made to the technical or audit requirements as a result of the codes of practice being incorporated into the REC as at the 1st of September. The REC defines the term MEM, a metering equipment manager, as either for electricity, the meter operator agent, formerly referred to as a MOP, appointed by an electricity supplier, or B, for gas, the meter asset manager, a MAM, appointed by the gas supplier. A meter installer is defined in the gas supply license as in relation to any gas meter, a person, a class or description of persons possessing the expertise to connect that meter satisfactorily so that the gas supplied through it is duly registered, or a person whose staff has such expertise and approved in accordance with the Retail Energy Code. Market participant is a participant in either or both of the gas and electricity markets of Great Britain, each of which identified by a market participant role. The 2 main codes of practice are MCOP and Mocop, being gas and electricity respectively. In terms of becoming accredited, there are different requirements under each code of practice. However, there are some similarities, such as the audits, which appear in multiple codes of practice. If you are a MEM who is not accredited on the 31st of August 2021, then you will need to go through the entry process. For more information around the entry process, please see the market entry training videos and user guide within the REC portal. For all those parties who were accredited as at the 31st of August 2021, in order to access a certificate displaying your accreditation, which is with REC branding, you simply need to accede to the REC via the REC portal, and we will issue a certificate to confirm your accreditation, and this certificate will also outline when your accreditation expires. If you're not currently accredited and you wish to enter the market and become accredited, part of that process for both Mocop and Mocop will involve completing a business solution assessment. This is a series of questions which will require answering, and in some places evidence will be required to support these answers, and this assessment will be audited before you can become accredited. If you are to be sending data flows, you will require internal testing on top of this BSA, and if you are wanting access to the Electricity Inquiry Service, EES, you will need to complete an ISDP. As you can see in the diagrams on this slide, there are very similar processes across Mocop and Mocop. Under Mocop, following the BSAs and any internal testing required, there'll be an initial assessment and the site audit carried out by the scheme auditors. Following the successful completion of these, the scheme auditors will notify the REC that you are able to become accredited, and we will issue you with a certificate to confirm this. Under Mocop, following the BSAs, internal testing, and any ISDP assessment required, there'll be an initial HQ audit, which is carried out by the REC. Following this, we will confirm the ceiling IDs that you wish to use, and our scheme auditor will arrange a site visit directly with you before we can again receive notification that you have successfully completed your audit, and we will issue you with a certificate. The first prerequisite for any party wishing to become accredited is to complete the REC accession. This is required before being able to arrange an audit of any description and can be done via the REC portal. Under the Automated Meter Reading Service Provider Code of Practice, ASPCOP, which is a voluntary code of practice, there is a slightly simpler way of becoming accredited, which involves completing the application form, a desktop audit, a site audit, and then the issuing of a certificate. Thereafter, you will have a full audit every 3 years. Moving away from the audit cycles, when becoming accredited under Mocop and Mocop, as part of the BSA, the following evidence may be required so that the code manager can decide whether you satisfy the requirements of the code of practice. You can see the headings listed under each code of practice on this slide. This gives an idea of the information we will be looking for in the BSAs and what you may be able to start preparing in advance of any application you wish to make. Once a party has become accredited, there are several things you must do to maintain your accreditation across the codes of practice. Under Mocop and Mocop, you will be required to submit an annual statement each year, which will involve questions around the following topics that you can see on this slide under each heading. Evidence and further questions may be required if the code manager deems appropriate. The annual statements are required on the annual anniversary of becoming accredited and therefore, if you originally accredited on the 1st of June 2021, you will need to complete your annual statement by the 1st of June 2022. Annual statements are compulsory for all parties as part of the Retail Energy Code under Mocop and Mocop. When looking to maintain your accreditation under smart meter installation schedule, which is applicable to electricity suppliers, you are required to undertake an audit if you meet two thresholds. Meeting out of these thresholds would require an audit to be undertaken, and this will then need to happen within 6 months following that date. Our scheme auditor will be able to get in touch with you and arrange this. You will also be required to complete a business solution assessment and an annual statement in order to maintain your smart meter installation schedule accreditation. The up-to-date thresholds for SMIS can be found within the REC portal and more specifically in the metering user guide. As well as any initial audit, when a party wishes to become accredited, there are also regular audits which are required to monitor ongoing compliance with the various codes of practice. Please note that it is your responsibility to pay the relevant audit fee, and a failure to make payment could be escalated to the PAB and could delay any renewal of your accreditation. The scheme auditor will work directly with you to schedule and execute audits and report any findings to the code manager. They will also report if payment has not been received and are likely to cancel the audit if payment has not been received at least 10 working days ahead of the audit date. Under Mocop, there is a surveillance audit required each year. This is for the first 3 years of your accreditation. And following this 3-year anniversary, you will roll into site audits, which are a full audit, which will take place every 3 years to maintain your accreditation. You will still be required to submit annual statements, although you will no longer have an annual surveillance audit. Any remedial actions required from any audit must be completed prior to any new certificate being issued to a party. Under Mocop, the process moves to a site audit every 3 years. And again, there may be remedial actions raised by the auditor, which a party must undertake. Under ASPCOP, as mentioned earlier on, an audit will be required every 3 years. This will include a desktop audit and a site audit. The current thresholds for under the smart meter installation schedule are where a party is approaching 10,000 customers or has installed more than 1,500 smart meters or declare non-compliance as part of your annual statement. Where any of this has happened, you'll be required to notify the code manager and an audit will take place within 6 months of that date. For all fees related to audits, please see the Retail Energy Code charging statement, which is detailed within the REC portal. In year 1, under Mocop, a full audit will be required, and then in years 2 and 3, it will simply be a surveillance audit before triennial audits from year 3 onwards. On top of the audit, under Mocop, you will be required to submit the number of whole current and current transformer operatives that you anticipate having in role in April to the code manager. This information will determine the number of audits you require and the urgency of these audits. It is imperative that you give us this information as soon as you are able to and as accurately as possible. The number of audits may also depend on the number of previous non-compliances which have been identified. On screen, you are able to see the annual surveillance audit process under Mocop. Audit dates will be scheduled for the following year every November, and you'll be required to settle the invoice before the audit is confirmed. Once the audit is executed and corrective actions are completed, a certificate will be issued. The Mocop annual audit requires the number of operatives to be confirmed by mid-February. This is the number of operatives that you anticipate in having in April of that same year. Once the number of operatives has been confirmed, we will work with the scheme auditor to plan the audit for the year. The number of audits will be confirmed and communicated with you, and you'll be required to settle the relevant invoice prior to the scheme auditor arranging the specific dates and times of the audits with you. Once audits are completed and remedial actions are undertaken, you will be issued with a certificate. Accreditations across the codes of practice, notably Mocop, Mocop and ASPCOP, are able to be suspended or withdrawn in certain circumstances. The Retail Energy Code reserves the right to amend the circumstances in which we deem a suspension or withdrawal appropriate. In any of the circumstances, the code manager and scheme auditor will both work with you as a party to resolve any non-compliance issues before the matter is escalated to the Performance Assurance Board. You are able to see on this slide the potential circumstances that may arise under which the code manager may submit a proposal for your party to be suspended or withdrawn from the Retail Energy Code. If you are unsure whether or not you risk suspension or withdrawal due to an issue that you have, please do get in touch and we will be able to work with you to resolve any non-compliance issues that you may have. All REC parties are made aware of any withdrawal or suspension that takes place across the Retail Energy Code, and the register will be updated to reflect this as soon as possible. Under the smart meter installation schedule, you are required to submit customer surveys of domestic and micro business customers. The questions can be found in the smart meter installation schedule, which is able to be accessed via the REC portal. The following process will determine whether you are required to submit a customer survey and the process of doing so. If you have not previously submitted a customer survey, you will need to complete and send a methodology statement to Bayes and Ofgem prior to uploading your SMIS monitoring and compliance spreadsheet to the REC portal. In the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, you are able to see the reporting period, submission deadline, and publication dates. This informs you of the reporting period we require, when we require this data to be submitted, and when the data will be published more broadly.